Welcome to Fatherhood for the Rest of Us with Brandon Handley. Because you're already great at everything else, why not fatherhood too?
Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of Fatherhood for the Rest of Us. This is Brandon Handley, and I am the creator, the founder of Fatherhood for the Rest of Us, the voice of a generation. Today, I am sharing with you an interview that I had with Armando Cruz. He is the creator of the Rich Man Experience, and he's also recently written and gave me a draft to read, anyways. Not sure if it's released yet. It should be released shortly. The book's name is The Legacy Code. Armando, and is a heck of a guy. He has been married for 10 years. Didn't really have a hard life story, but he's got a story worth sharing. And he's a husband, father, entrepreneur, author, lifestyle, physical therapist, and a legacy coach. I do a fair fair read up and write up of him. So check the notes. He's a proud dad, also of three amazing children. Has been married for over 10 years. We cover a lot of ground on this one, guys. It's almost 2 hours long, so I broke it into two for you. The first half is going to be mostly about his book, and what we discuss is the book, and then we wrap it over into fatherhood. So I'll release it, like I said, in two pieces. One of the things I really love is just Armando is just 100% genuine, and one of the things that we talked about was creating adventures with and for your families and what that looks like. That's also pretty cool. Just a lot of good stuff. What it's like to have somebody who's super supportive of you as a team player. That is your wife, your significant other, your husband, your wife, whoever it is that is working along with you to make you into the parent that you are, the person that you are. It's not something that you do by yourself most often. Um, Other than that, guys, make sure you head on over to iTunes. Leave us a review if this is helping you out in some way, if this is helping you through parenthood, if this is helping you through fatherhood, if it's just making you laugh at some points. Share it with a friend if you think that they could use it. I know that we could always just, we can always help somebody else. I hear my kids out in the background. Anyways, if you haven't done it yet, too, join the Facebook group. It is growing by leaps and bounds. We are definitely growing strong, and the amount of people in there helping each other out through fatherhood is amazing. It's a private group, so what is shared in there stays in there. Head on over there to Fatherhood for the Rest of Us on Facebook. Let me know that you're interested in joining. You can reach out to me at Brandon G. Handley and just have a chat if you'd like. Basically, you find me pretty much just on Facebook. That is gonna do it, guys. I hope you enjoy this episode. Also, if there's, if you're looking for some other ways to enhance your parenting, your fatherhood skills, I've released a video series that can be found on fatherhoodbydesign.xyz. It's got a number of things in there that can help you through fatherhood. It teaches you how to work through being adaptable, keep being a lifelong learner, showing up. There's also a book that is accompanies that series, along with some activities. And the price is so cheap, I'm almost just ashamed to admit it on the air. So head on over there to Fatherhood by Design and take a look at that. It's meant to be something that goes over 5 weeks, one course, one video series per each week over the course of 5 weeks. So you still got time that if you grab that now, you can have a totally different outlook on the year 2018. Looking forward to hearing from you either way, guys. Check us out in the Facebook group. Reach out to me. Reach out to Armando. Let him know what you thought about this, and we'll talk to you later. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey there, Fatherhood for the Rest of Us. I am on here today with Armando Cruz. He is a husband, father, adventurer, author, ultramarathoner, lifestyle physical therapist, and a legacy coach. He is creator of a Cleanse and Renewal program, the Modern Man Virtual Summit, and the Rich Man Experience. He is the co-owner of Cruz Country Fitness and Physical Therapy with his wife, Kristen. Armando has climbed mountains, has run over 50 miles in a day in the swamps with snakes and alligators, has lived out of his car, and has rollerbladed and surfed in the hurricanes, but his biggest adventure has been fatherhood. He's a proud dad of three amazing children and has been married 10 years to his beautiful wife, Kristen. Armando helps growth-minded married men live happier, more connected, and more fulfilled lives with his immersive coaching program to help married men show up powerfully in their marriage, in their health, in their business, and in their purpose. Armando's unique approach helps strip away the clutter, both internally and externally, that is stopping them from showing up daily as the greatest and grandest versions of who they are for themselves, for their family, and for their legacy. Armando, man, it's a pleasure to have you on here today. Thanks for being here. And before we even jump into anything at all, what can we celebrate for you today, man? What kind of awesome, amazing things are happening for you today?
Well, today's a really special day. Today is actually day 500. 500 days ago, I started, I took on a little I had an idea of what I call micro habits, that they're based off one rule. What is it that you can do even on your worst day? And so for the past 500 days, without missing a day, I've done 6 things every single day, which are: I do a 40 breath meditation, I do 10 minutes of movement, I reach out to 3 people every single day, I make 1 video, I write at least 50 words, and the last thing is I read 5 pages in any book that I'd like. Those 6 things for the past 500 days, with the exception of writing, that I did miss one day, that I put it off and I ended up passing out, and I woke up the next morning
Yeah.
feeling like destroyed. I was like, no, but whatever. I kept going. So that's 499 days for writing.
Right on, right on. Do you remember which day that was out of the 500?
No, I don't.
That's all right. That's all right. No, that's
I
awesome.
just keep it going. I was like, I know, whatever. I just keep
That's
it going.
amazing. That's great. What started that? What started that journey?
That journey started because what I realized is that one of the things that I was really after was freedom. And if you want freedom, you need discipline. And it's something that my dad taught me many years ago. And part of the reason that I kind of fell off when doing a lot of these habits was because I'm kind of an immersive person. And I'm an all or nothing kind of guy. And, when I was in college, I ran for college, and it became so, like, it consumed me so much. Like, it was so addictive because I ran collegiately. I was running twice a day. I was running 13 times in a week, basically. So twice a day for 6 days, and then a 2-hour run on Sunday. Like, it became everything.
Yeah.
When I got married, I got afraid of not paying attention to my wife. And then when I had kids, the same thing, because I would be so consumed with running. And so I stopped being consistent. I'd run here and there, but I wasn't very consistent.
Okay.
And I realized that it started happening in many other areas in my life. And I figured, okay, what do I really want in my life? Like, what do I believe are my gifts, and how do I bring this out? And so to me, part of this was knowing that I had a message that I needed to share, and I needed to hone some of those skills. Speaking, so that's why the video. Writing, because it's a form of communication.
Okay.
Reading, because it helps me think and it gives me a point of reference. And then the other stuff, connecting with people, meditating, and the movement, was just for me to feel that much more connected, both to myself and the people that matter around.
No, that's great. That's great. Well, congratulations on 500 days. That is awesome. That's a great thing to celebrate. Now you're just about done with this book.
Yes.
And I actually want to just step back for a second too, because how you and I connected was kind of, to me, interesting, and actually a testament to how you do facilitate connecting with people. I just sent out a friend request because I was looking to connect with other men who are doing amazing things in the world, right? And no, hey, how are you? And I said, hey, connect with Armando. And you reached out to me. You said, hey, look, I like to actually talk to people before accepting the request, or having a conversation. And that's where you and I we connected there, and I really appreciated that. I thought that was more than most other people do, and I thought that it just showed a genuine side of your personality, and then we talked about the story, and that's how we kind of connected. And I thought that was, again, I thought that was really cool, that, you know, it wasn't just like, and to be, I'm going to be honest with you, I thought you're there's so many people on Facebook that they're just going to try and sell you something.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, oh geez, what's the spiel? Because sometimes I'm just interested in the spiel too, but you're like, hey, let's have a quick conversation. And so that was awesome. Right. And we started talking about the book that you're writing, and the name of the book, unless the title's changed, for now, is The Legacy Code, Modern Man's Guide to Escape Obscurity and Live a Life Unleashed. Is that still the title?
Still the title. That's it.
And you gave me a preview to read, and I enjoyed it. So I want to say thank you for that. Let's talk about what led up to you writing this book. Why write a book? I mean, you've got all these other things going on. What's happening?
Right. So, I mean, like you mentioned, yeah, I do have a lot of things going on. You know, I run 3 different businesses, and, you know, I have 3 kids, marriage, right? You got to keep that up.
Right.
So why write a book? The honest truth is, I felt that I needed to share a message. I was working with my coaching clients. Primarily, they're married men that are successful entrepreneurs that have come to a point where they've reached a certain level of financial success. And then the question is that all there is? It's come at the expense of perhaps their marriage or their health, or, you know, their happiness, their fulfillment. They don't feel good about themselves anymore. And after having enough conversations with them, I said, you know what? This is something that needs to be shared a little bit more. How to live your legacy on purpose, how to create it so that we're not put in a situation where we're getting to our deathbed and we're like, man, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done that. Because at that point, it's too late. And so one of the reasons that I wanted to do it was to allow men to see that you do have control, and it's actually a pretty exciting process to go through it and start creating that for you, for your family, and for the people that are to come that you've never even met.
Right. Now, in reading the book and you know, reading a little bit more just kind of about you, you've always been fairly intentional, right? You've always kind of had an eye on where you wanted to go. So is this process of being intentional and kind of purpose driven new to you, or is it newer for you to share the message to other people?
Good question. I would say it's the reason that intentionality that you're talking about, it's actually instilled with me because of my father. You know, my father always shared with me, look, if you're going to do something, do it right. Be very clear, and don't be afraid to fail. Just do it, go all out on it. And if it's not for you, that's cool. Make the shift that you need to make, but don't give less than your best.
Right.
Whatever it is you're going to do. If you're going to pick up trash, be the best trash picker. Right. If you're going to mow the lawn like a champ.
Right. That's one of the stories in the book too, right? Like where you have to take out the trash, mow the lawn, and one day you're like why am I doing this? And you remember this response to this day. How long ago was that? So why don't you go ahead and just kind of give that story?
Yeah. You know, like in typical teenage fashion, I was the oldest. I'm the oldest of 4.
Okay.
Right. So because I was the oldest, I essentially had to do all the stuff. Right. So I'm the oldest, and then my 2 sisters, and then my brother's 6 years younger. So he didn't get to do not even a fraction of the stuff that I did.
Right.
You know, I had to go to work with my dad in construction down here in South Florida in the summer with the mosquitoes and the blistering humidity and heat.
Right.
My brother did that maybe like a handful of times. Not me. I went a lot. So, but that story responsible was taking out the trash, and the other thing was mowing the lawn every weekend. And it was one of those things that I really hated because I'd rather be doing something else. The trash meant that I had to wake up early to take it out the morning of and not forget, because my dad would get upset if I forgot. And mowing the lawn, that meant, hey, that's my weekend. I got to do it on the weekend.
Right.
So I remember them telling me, oh, you got to cut the grass. And one day I got like frustrated and I was like, why do you want me to cut the grass? Why do you want me, take out the trash? Do you want me to, I said, these were my words. Do you want me to be what was it that I said? I said, do you want me to be a trash man and or a lawn? I said a lawn maintenance guy, right?
Right.
And they're like, no, it's not that I want you to do that. But if you ever did, it's a skill set that you do have. Right? Right now, all you're doing is building up the discipline to be able to execute on something consistently. And it's only once a week, right? Trash comes out once. Right. Now it comes twice, at least by where I'm at.
Right.
But at least once a week when I was growing up, and you mow the lawn once a week. Maybe you can get away with every other week during the winter here. Mm-hmm. But in the summer it rains so much that you got to do it every week.
Right.
So
and that stayed with you for all these years, and even on that day you took a fresh new perspective. You were given a new reframing of this, and I think
I didn't love it, but I understood. right? I understood it.
You got the message,
right?
You got the message. So there's a lot of different things in the book, and actually one of the things, one of the other things that you told me about in the book too, and how it led up to it was going to that retreat. And I think that this is kind of a testament to your relationship with your wife, Kristen. Is like how you were kind of down and out. Let's talk a little bit about, a little bit more in depth about what led up to you had a transformation.
Yeah. But before there's a transformation, there's usually that dip before, right?
Sure.
You got to get momentum. You ever watch that Ninja Warrior where they kind of like run down that ramp and then they got to run up the really steep side?
Absolutely.
That's kind of what it feels like. You're dropping down that ramp and then, oh man, I got to start running up the steep side. So here's what happens. I have a fitness and physical therapy studio here in Miami. And I've always been the type of person that I want to really, I'm not interested in fads. I'm not interested in a quick fix. Part of what's made me successful, especially in the physical therapy component, is I'm one of the few people that will guarantee results. In fact, my thing is I'll fix you in 5 sessions or less, or you get your money back. Nobody does that, right? Mm. And part of me doing that approach is that it forces me to excellence. I can't just go through the motions, because if not, I lose a lot of money. Right? So taking the approach of what's the actual cause of something. And what I really realized is that I started falling out of love with my business, and I wanted to do more coaching, more kind of working the more mental side. And I felt trapped by my business.
Right.
I don't know if whoever's listening right now, if you ever felt trapped in your current work, in your current job, in your current situation, but it's kind of, it feels like the walls are caving in and you're like, man, I can't see the end in sight. It only feels like it's only getting worse and worse and worse. And it really wasn't. It's just, you start going down that path.
Sure. That was your mindset at the time.
Yeah. And it took me to a really dark place. I'm not going to say I was depressed clinically. I wouldn't just throw that around. I know people that are mentally in that place.
Right.
I don't think I was. I know I wasn't there, but I was definitely a lesser version than myself.
Right.
And so I would come home and I wouldn't do anything. I would come home in the middle of the day and sleep 4, 5, 6 hours. I just had no desire.
This was abnormal.
Yeah, this was abnormal. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Okay. And so, my wife was pregnant with her 3rd child. Mm-hmm. And now I was really sinking the business. Right. I felt like it was, constricting me. And I guess my and my wife looked at me and she said, listen, we need to do something. Mm-hmm. I said, I don't know if we're going to be able to pay our bills. Mm. I don't know if and this baby's coming. And by the way, I was never afraid of having kids. I love kids. I want more kids. My wife said 3 is good, but so it's not and I've had friends that have been really concerned about having kids. This is already my 3rd.
Yeah.
I love kids. I come from a family of four, like four of us, brothers and sisters. So bigger families that was in my head what I always wanted, right? So
Sure,
it wasn't that child, but she looked at me and she said, listen, we have to do something. And around that time, one of my mentors, one of my coaches reached out and said, hey, listen, I'm having this retreat in Thailand. I think you really benefit from it. It was an invitation, right? I said, listen, if it's something you think that you want to do right now, I just want to invite you and let you know about it, right?
Right.
And I looked at all the stuff. He had created some videos around it just to kind of walk you through the process. And I said, that's what I need. Like, that's where I need to be. And this was a person that I trusted, or that I trust. I still trust. He wrote the foreword for my book, by the way.
Right. Absolutely. Okay.
Right. So I told my wife and I said, listen, this is a situation at this point. Just to give you an idea, the retreat was about $5,500. It was not cheap.
No.
The plane ticket was another $2,000. So you're looking at, between everything said and done, you're looking at about $8,000.
And you're not even able to pay your bills right now. You got a third baby on the way, and
exactly.
you're tanking a business.
Right. Exactly. So mathematics to that are not working in my favor.
Right.
And when I presented it to her, I was just presenting it because it was kind of like my last straw. I didn't know what to do. And she looked at me with this face of like, normally I come up with crazy ideas all the time, right? And she's kind of that person that brings it back to reality. And she looked at me that day and she said, listen, she said, is this what you think will get you out of this funk? She goes, and I said, yes. I said, this is the only thing I can see that could do it. And she's like, then you need to do it.
Right.
She goes, and not for you. I said, your kids need to see their father back.
Right.
I want to see my husband back.
Sure.
I want to see the man I know you to be. And I don't know how else to help you at this point. And if you feel like this is the thing, then you need to do this for us, because this baby's coming and things aren't getting better. So if you feel like this is it, this is what we need to do.
Right.
And I was blown away, because I never in a million years thought she was going to say yes, to be honest.
No, and that makes sense. So she says yes, and in your mind, what are you thinking? I mean, so it's totally unexpected. I'm just curious, like, what your mental reaction was to that.
I was excited and scared at the same time, right? Excited because, like, wow, I just saw the flicker of light at the end of the tunnel. Like, oh, there could be a way out.
Right.
And then that was immediately followed by fear of saying, wow, everything hangs in the balance of this.
Sure.
I got to make sure I do this right.
Yeah.
I can't mess around.
Yeah. I mean, because in my head, I'd be thinking, what if this doesn't work? Right. I go all the way out here and not just taking all this money, taking, time away, potential to miss my baby, child being born, and nothing changes.
Right.
That's a little terrifying.
Was that there? Of course. I mean, my wife definitely had that thought.
Yeah.
Those were, after the initial conversation of the yes, those were kind of the conversation that we started having.
Okay.
And I said, well, that can't be that can't be an option.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Like, I have to do something different.
Right.
This has to work. I have to figure out a way to work, even if it means I went over there, I went in there looking for a solution.
Right.
And I went over there kind of like, most people's idea of fixing a solution is more like fixing a symptom. Because rarely do most people step back to see the cause, to see the bigger picture of what's really going on. One of the things was really stepping out and seeing what was really the problem. There was nothing wrong with my business. In fact, I realized that I can create miracles in that business. And I say that not from a place of like ego, but when you have somebody that comes into you that has seen doctors, chiropractors, acupuncturists, other therapists, and they're still in pain, and you see them once and they can walk out with no pain,
Yeah.
that's a miracle for that person. You've just changed their entire life.
Absolutely.
When I have a conversation with a man that's on the brink of wanting to leave his wife, and all of a sudden he realizes that there's nothing wrong with my wife.
Right.
She's the most amazing woman in my life.
Right.
And now I'm committed to her to make this grow.
Right.
I'm committed to my family. I'm committed to my vision for what I want to leave in this world. That's massive, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
there's nothing wrong with my business. It was just the way I was looking at it and how I started feeling like I was being trapped. I didn't see how I could serve a little bit deeper the way I wanted. And what that did was help me step back for a second and give me perspective that I never saw. And then we work through that.
Sure.
And we're able to create not just a vision for it, but an action plan to execute both improving my business and then how to supplement it with the coaching that I wanted to, and which is where I created that Rich Man Experience, which was essentially the program that I wish I would have had as a married man that's an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Like, what was that process like?
Right. Well, that's awesome. I mean, it really is. I think that you give a nice little. You almost missed getting there too in the books. I mean, great story. In the book, great story in the book about that. Since you brought it up too, let's talk a little bit. My listeners, a lot of them probably haven't heard the Rich Man acronym and experience, and I think it's a very awesome one. So why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. While I was over there, one of the things that became really apparent. See, for me, I've always known what I wanted to do. Like from high school, I knew how I wanted to do it. So, I mean, I graduated college in 3 years and I went straight forward. I created my business. I started working on it. I knew I wanted to serve people and help them, optimize their performance, whether it was at the beginning, it was weight loss. Then it was like, man, there's so many people in pain. Then it's like, there's this continuous vicious cycle that mentally people keep getting stuck on. So how do I release the brakes there to help them? I knew exactly what I wanted to create and I created it. Right. At times I felt frustrated because like my friends were like, oh, I want to be an attorney. Oh, there was an easy track. You go here and in 4 years, you're an attorney. What I wanted didn't exist.
Right.
So, I became a strength coach. I studied nutrition. I studied psychology. I studied physical therapy. And then I put it all together and created my own little world, if you want.
Right.
But when that all burned down from mental perspective, that I was like, I was lost because that had been my identity for so long.
Sure.
And what I realized when I went on the retreat, that it's easy to get sucked into your identity by what you do as opposed to who you're being. And who you're being has a lot to do with the values that you hold. Now, when I say values, people are like, oh yeah, I got values.
Sure.
And I had done exercises working on values, but usually what those end up looking like are sentences and pages long. If you ask somebody, oh yeah, I believe in honesty and some of my values are hard work, but they're not agile, right? Like when people create this, they create these documents that are cumbersome to move around. I can basically tell you my values in 3 words, and they are love, light, and authentic. That encompasses everything for me.
Okay.
Right? So I know what my values are, but I wanted to create a way of being, a way of showing up that was easier to follow when I created this program. And so RICH is an acronym for a value system that I created. And it stands for respected, inspired, connected, and happy. And when you look at those words, each person has their own definition of it. But if you ask yourself, in any situation, how would I show up if I was a man that was respected? How would I speak to these people? How would I speak, or how would I carry myself? How would I show up what kind of mindset would I be going into this if I was showing up as a man that was respected? Now, I'm not talking about mafia respected, that people are trembling
Right.
because you're going to whack them, right? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about
not a man to be feared, but a man to be respected and admired.
Exactly. Right. So what are the actions? What are the words? What does that sound like? What does that feel like? What does that, what does that look like?
Right.
Tapping into your senses, and then inspired. Most people are like, oh, I'm not motivated. Motivation is an external stimulus to get you to do something you don't really want to do. On the flip side, inspiration is quite literally means to be filled with the Spirit, and it comes from the inside out. And it's kind of like a magnet that pulls you in the direction that is aligned with that inspiration. And so how can you come from a place of inspiration in any situation? How do you flip your mind so that you align with that place of inspiration, as opposed to feeling like you're forcing yourself to do something you don't really want?
Right.
And then connected. How can you connect with yourself on a really authentic level? How do you connect with other people? Right? When you sent me that Facebook message, over, actually, when I started that 500, the past 500 days that I started reaching out to people, I realized, connecting with people was something that's important to me. And I realized that I wasn't always exposed to a lot of people except on Facebook. The people that I never knew would ask for a friend request. And like most people, I'd either just without looking say yes, because, maybe they'll see whatever I'm saying. Like that's how you think, oh yeah, I can share something with them. Or you're like, no, that guy is kind of like a weirdo looking. I don't know if I want him in my sight. I don't know him.
Right.
And I realized, like, man, this is a perfect opportunity to connect with people that I don't know.
Right.
And so I started doing that. Whenever somebody would Facebook message me, I'm like, listen, I don't know you, but I'd like to get to know you. I'd like to know what you're about, how you serve, how you operate in this world. And, to be honest, I know it's kind of going to seem a little weird. I'd love to get on a phone and actually talk, not just text.
Right.
And there have been some people that have been like, oh, you can look at my profile and you can see what I'm about.
Right.
And to me, that's kind of like, this person, there's nothing wrong with them as a person.
Right.
But I don't know if that person is has real interest in building a relationship.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's important. To me, that's important.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. Absolutely, I love that.
Right. And then the last thing is happiness. Right. Mm-hmm. How do you operate in a place where you can align with happiness? And the distinction is that happiness it's not something you find on the outside. And that's the problem that happens to most men, is that we search, kind of like chasing the rainbow. The closer you get to it, the further it moves, right?
Sure.
As you head towards it, it keeps moving. If you're searching for happiness on the outside, it's a moving target.
Right.
Because most people think that you find happiness by achievement. And achievement, while it's awesome,
sure,
it doesn't bring happiness, because happiness is something from within. If you cannot be happy now with what you have in your current situation, you cannot be happy in any other situation.
Right.
Viktor Frankl, in his Man's Search for Meaning, imagine being stuck in a concentration camp. How do you find happiness there? You're being tortured, starved, killed.
Right.
People all around you. How do you find the joy, the happiness in life in your current situation, no matter how bad it is?
Right.
Not necessarily accepting it like, oh, this is perfect and everything's good. Like, then not staying there.
Right.
But you still need to have fulfillment and happiness where you are, so that you can take that next step and move where you want to get to.
Sure. Absolutely. There's a couple things in there. The one thing that I would say is, if you look at achievement, to me, that would be fleeting, right? So achievement, while it's great to achieve something, that can't be everlasting, because that's just a moment. You work towards a moment, you've done something, you've created or done something, but that is not something that you can hold on to, right?
Right.
And one of the things that you did, and I'm not sure if I caught it in the book or not, I caught it in your bio, where you traveled around to all the national parks and lived out of your car for like a few weeks.
No, a few months.
Was it a few months?
Yeah,
Okay.
3 months.
Okay. So, I mean, describe where you found happiness in that situation.
Actually, that's a perfect situation of trying to find happiness outside. The backstory to that.
Okay.
If you want me to share the backstory to that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Sure. So the backstory to that is I was a very driven person. And this actually was a beautiful lesson for me. I was always in a hurry. I was like, I got to get started with life, right? So what happens? I go into college and I'm like, all right, I'm going to take my classes. And during the summers, I would take classes. So I finished school in 3 years.
Right.
And originally I did my undergrad in athletic training. And, but I wanted to do my master's in exercise physiology. But I wanted to do it at UNC Chapel Hill. I don't know why, for whatever reason, that became the school that I wanted to go to do my master's. What I didn't know was that the guy who writes all the athletic training books is a professor there at Chapel Hill.
Okay.
And so what was happening is it was one of the most competitive athletic training programs to get into. And so what was happening is that because it was so competitive, people were applying to the exercise physiology program because it was easier to get into. And then once they were in the school, they transfer over and they go into athletic training.
Got
and
it.
so the exercise phys department was getting shafted there.
Right.
And so with my background, when they saw that, they denied me because, I almost had a 4.0, I had a 3.87 something or 8.9 or something like that. I graduated in 3 years. I had great letters of recommendation. And the reason I know this whole story is because I called. I was like, this doesn't fit with my narrative that I've always been told, that if you work hard and you do what you're supposed to do, things are going to be okay.
Right.
This didn't work. I was like, man, I finished early. I worked hard.
Yeah.
I did that all while being an athlete at the same time.
Right.
And it was just like a slap in the face when they told me. I said, I didn't want to do athletic training. I want to do exercise phys. You don't think you could have called me and asked?
Right.
I said, like, it just didn't compute.
Right.
So I was really frustrated with the world because right now it was just a big mess to me. I was like, I didn't understand it.
Right.
I had worked super hard and I was disciplined. I did what I needed to do and life didn't treat me right.
Right.
Right? It was like one of my first real big slaps in the face, which, there's so many people that have it so much worse, but to me, that was like a big thing.
Right.
And I started working at a gym, doing some personal training. And then I was like, man, I got to get out of here. And I would go in the middle of the day. I had some free time and I would go to the library and I started finding these books on the mountains and everything. And I've always loved running in the mountains. I said, that's where I need to go. I said, I'm going on a Western exploration. And around that time, I had a buddy of mine that was working with me. And I said, he also ran at the university with me. And I was like, hey, Johan, this is what I'm thinking. Was that something you'd be open to? And he's like, man, that sounds amazing. I'd love to do it. I don't know if I can do it financially. And I was like, okay, listen, I'm going. So if you're going to go, just let me know in the next week or two.
Right.
I get a call a week later. This is all he says. Mandy, I'm in.
Nice.
This is what he tells me. I'm like, what changed? Because like he was financially, there were some issues.
Sure.
I got a brand new Discover card. This is what he said. I got a brand new Discover card.
Sure.
And I don't pay interest for 1 year.
Right.
I said, we'll be gone for 3 months. I can get a job and pay it back by then. I said, if you're cool with it, I'm cool with it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did. We packed up my car, and I'm not going to say I was sheltered, but my parents have a wonderful relationship. I went to private school. Like I was in a great environment growing up my entire life.
Sure.
I was I had a good head on me.
Sure.
My friend was the exact opposite. He grew up in the streets.
Sure.
So we were exact opposites. And everybody, you know, all our teammates from college were like, yeah, you guys are going to kill each other. Because all this was happening in my small little Hyundai Accent hatchback.
Nice.
So it's a really small car.
Oh yeah.
And we packed everything in there. We just started driving towards Colorado. Was our first destination, like official.
Right.
And we spent the month in Colorado in the different places, running national parks. We ran up Pikes Peak, which is up it and down it, which is 26 miles.
Wow.
You know, we did so many amazing things. And then we headed west and, you know, we made it all the way to California and then made it back. And, you know, it was an unforgettable trip that really changed me because he helped me bring out a side of me that I never knew, the same way I did the same thing for him. Right. And so it was a perfect balance. People were like, you guys didn't want to kill each other? I said, no, it actually worked out great. Like it was a good opposites.
Right. And so you guys lived out in the car and like camped at every
yeah.
site? Just kind
we camped everywhere except there were in Colorado, we camped everywhere. Like we slept in a tent everywhere. We had 2 tents. We had a big tent. Like when we go car camping, it was like, and we put up an inflatable bed in there.
Right.
That was like our big 5-person tent that we would do there. We would bring boxes of our clothes in there. So it was like we moved into a shelter.
Right.
And then we had our backcountry tent, which was a 2-person tent. Neither one of us are all that big, so that we'd sleep in the same, you know, we sleep in the same tent.
Right.
And then, so we met up with people in California, and when we were in San Francisco.
Okay.
So we stayed there. We went to Vegas. We stayed at Vegas.
Right.
And when we went to go visit a friend in Texas. So those were the 3 places that we actually stayed indoors. Mm-hmm. Other than that, we stayed outdoors.
Awesome. That's awesome. I'm going to hit one more spot in the book. I have 2 I like a lot. 2 I like a lot. I'll give you the choice. Let's talk about either your your first 50-mile run, or your brother and the high five. Your choice.
Well, let me ask you this. Is there a message that you prefer that people hear? Because they're 2 very different things.
Well, here, you know what? Yeah, you know what? Here, the high five, I think, is I feel like it's a pretty common theme. I like how you wrote it out. I love how you wrote. I'm going to go ahead and just spell it out a little bit. I love how you showed how your brother wasn't as much like you, as determined. Didn't sound like he was like as determined, as driven, as ultra focused, we'll say.
Yeah, he wasn't as disciplined.
Right, as disciplined. And I like how you talk about him. And how being around the right group of people works, right? I think that's the story I think a lot of us hear, but what we don't hear, I think, often is the 50-mile story. Yeah. So that one I like. That one I like is something that we're not going to hear that often.
Okay, cool. So I'll share that one. Have you ever had something you've said you wanted to do, and you keep putting it off and putting it off and putting it off?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And that kept happening to me. I kept saying, hey, I want to do, you know, my big vision is to do the Western States 100 miler, which goes from Auburn, California to Squaw Valley, or the other way around. It's 100 miles through the mountains there. So in order to get into that race, you need to qualify.
Right.
So I kept saying, man, I want to do that. Like, that's my big race. And I kept putting it off. I wasn't consistent with my training. Stuff kept coming up. And one day I just said, you know what? It was my birthday. It was going to be, I can't even remember what birthday it was. I don't even want to say how old I was. But my birthday is February 25th, and the race was going to be on my birthday. And I said, you know what? What a perfect birthday present to myself. Right. And I was thinking about it. I said, at this point, I've run 3 or 4 days a week, like 30 minutes. And up to that point, for the past like maybe 6 months, the longest run I had done was maybe 90 minutes.
Okay.
So I was in no shape to run 50 miles. And I said, you know what? I'm going for it. It's my birthday. I've been saying I want to do it. I'm not putting in the training. So I figured if that will snap me out of this funk, and get me to start training more so that I can see what I need to, like all the work that I do need to do.
Right.
And, you know, I'm here in South Florida, so Disney is kind of like a thing that you do growing up. So I remember you walk Disney an entire day. I was like, man, you're there for 12, 14, 15 hours. I said, this is like Disney. I said, what's the worst that could happen? I said, it hurts that much that I got to walk.
Yeah.
And then I got to pretend like I'm in Disney. I'm just walking for the day.
Sure.
And that was my mindset going in. Right?
Right.
But that all went out the window real quick. And so I get to the starting line. Like I mentioned earlier, I ran in college.
Right.
I ran collegiately. I wasn't the best runner, but compared to the way most people run, I ran fast, right?
Yeah.
So we take off, and this is an ultra marathon. This is 50 miles.
And let's talk about the terrain too. Like, where are you running through, and what
Yeah.
what can you expect to see while you're doing this run?
Yeah. So this is in the Everglades, right? So if you don't know what the Everglades, this is swamp, and there are alligators, there are snakes. One thing I didn't know, which was really cool in the race, was there were trees, orange trees in the middle of the Everglades planted by the Indians that they're not native there, but you have wild orange trees in parts of the Everglades where we were running of actual oranges, which to me, I was like, the first time I saw one, I was like, man, we just got started. Am I hallucinating? Because that's an orange tree.
That's awesome.
And so anyways, so yeah, we're mud, swamp. What I didn't know is that there's gorgeous grasslands that look like you're like in an African plain.
Wow.
That while I'm running at that point, when I got to that point, I was by myself, and I felt like there was like lions or tigers stalking me. Like I would like in my mind, I would sense like if there was an animal stalking me. There's no lions there or tigers.
You felt like some prey, right?
Yeah, exactly. Especially the way I felt. I was dying at that point. So
well, now, yeah, like let's talk about how you start the race and like, you know, all this stuff.
So we take off and we're running probably like a 9-minute pace. Okay. So context, in college, I'm running races close to 5-minute pace. In some cases, under 5-minute pace. So running 9-minute pace feels really slow, even though I haven't been training that much. Like I still have some turnover.
Sure.
And I remember I'm running with the top, you know, it's like a group of, I think it's like 7 or 10 of us. And we're just chatting. I'm like, man, this is really easy. We just started the race, right?
Right.
50-mile race. So we're running and like mile 7 goes by, or it was probably like mile 8. And there's like a water stop. So I fill up my water bottles there and I fill up, but I'm the only one. So, you know, then I jog and I catch back up and I'm no problem. Then at mile like 10 or 11, the entire group stops to refill and do all their stuff. Right. I'm like, I don't have to stop. So I start running and then I look back and I'm like, this is the thought that comes to my head 10 miles into a 50-mile race. Maybe I could run away from them and they won't even know that I'm gone. So, you know, that's a racing strategy. And especially like in cross country is that, you know, if it's winding and people don't see you, you can increase your speed and open up because they don't see you. So they don't know how fast you're going.
Right.
So all of a sudden I start running like I'm being chased by an animal, and I'm running 6:30, 6:15 pace through the trails. And I'm like, I keep looking back. I'm like, maybe I can run away. Like in my head, I'm like, I'm going to win this race.
Right.
And I'm mile 10, right? So I start going, and mile like 17, reality set in. I was like, I don't have the mileage. I don't have the training. My legs are cramping. Now I'm like, not crawling, but I'm walking in pain.
Right.
And like mile 20, the whole group is like jogging by, like, hey, where did you go? We missed you. And I'm like, destroyed, completely dehydrated, completely distraught. I'm like, I still have 30 miles to go and I am in intense pain. So I started walking like Disney. I felt like I was being, you know, I felt like I was prey and there was, you know, lions lurking around there ready to pounce on me, at which point I would have been glad because I was in so much pain.
Right.
So that's kind of the story in a nutshell of like, so the 2 points to that story. So let me, one of my mentors always say, never share a story without a point, never tell a point without a story, right? So
Sure.
what's the point of the story? The point of the story is that sometimes you need to jump in and do it. I
Right.
finished the race
Sure.
in a lot of pain.
Sure.
I learned a lot about myself. I got to go to somewhere amazing. So sometimes you just got to go for it, right? You got to go for it, and you'll be amazed at the opportunities that present itself.
When you say you got to go to somewhere amazing, would you say that both mentally and physically, and just like your whole, like, kind of your body and all that? Is that what you would say?
Yes, definitely, like physically, like the pure beauty. I didn't even know that was here. So that was gorgeous. I had never known it, and I fell in love with the terrain.
Nice.
Um, but yes, from a mental perspective, I was like, wow, there's this reserve that I have yet to tap into, coming into this not trained and having finished this, not anywhere gracefully, but finished it.
Right.
There's potential.
Right.
There's potential.
Yeah.
And so doing something so hard that perhaps there's a good chance you will fail, it'll teach you a lot. That's one lesson to take from it.
Right.
The flip side of that is prepare.
Yeah.
Prepare. One of my favorite sayings is opportunity dances with those already on the dance floor.
I like that. Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And so if you're waiting for opportunity, you need to be ready. And what does that mean? You got to put in the work.
Right.
Right? The daily habits. That was maybe the seed that started being planted, that I started doing 500 years, the 500 day, micro, but that was maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Right. No, that's awesome. I like that too. The 500 days. So awesome. The book is it's going through its final stages. When can we look to have that? When can the public see this book? When do you think that'll be?
Yeah, that I'm looking for right now. The original date was November 13th.
Mm-hmm.
That may be because of the final re-edits that we're doing.
Right.
It may get pushed back a week or two. So either hopefully before Thanksgiving, right before Thanksgiving. But right now the tentative date is November 13th. Okay. A lot has to do with once it gets through, is the process of once it gets go through the publishing and that whole process, making sure there's the formatting and everything is good. If everything goes back, it's like a 20-day period that it goes through to make sure that everything is good. So other than that, unless something comes back, we should be able to make the 13th, if not maybe a week later.
I think this will probably release on about the 20th, I think, or the week after. So November So hopefully this will coincide with the release. That would be awesome. And then you're also, with the book, you've got educational, there's some web tie-in with this too, right?
Yeah.
So you want to talk a little bit about what's going to go along with the book?
Sure. Again, part of this is like you had mentioned, look, the title of the book is, I wanted to be as descriptive. And so, if you read the title, you're like, oh, this is for me, or no, this is not for me. Right. So it's the legacy code. So we're talking about legacy. If that wasn't apparent, right?
Right.
So we're talking about legacy and creating your legacy, a purposeful and powerful legacy that you can start living right now and leave for the future to come. Right. So in that process, I take you through some exercises in the book, and I share with that so that you can go through the process yourself and start being more purposeful, more powerful in living out that legacy. But I also know that people don't always go through the book in that way, and sometimes they prefer somebody guiding them. And so what I did was I created basically the same thing, the exercises that are in the book, and I video myself walking you through them. Right. So you'll have both available to you. And once you purchase the book, it'll give you the resource to go for that. So, and it's a free resource.
Right. That's awesome.
So, I just wanted it to enhance the experience of the book. And then hopefully for the new year, I will do the audio version, because I know a lot of guys prefer doing the audio version, and I plan on reading it.
Cool. So that'll be great. Yeah. I always enjoy it when the author actually reads the book. I think that's a nice touch. So looking forward to that. I think that a lot of people listening will enjoy the book. A lot of takeaways in there. Um, in the book, we're talking legacy right now. You talk about legacy in that book. You give a couple different the varieties of legacy, which I think is listen. So for anybody looking forward to reading this book, I definitely recommend it. Armando, you did a really nice job with it. So thank you. And thank you for letting me. First of all, thanks for responding with the offer to connect via Facebook, and thanks for letting me get a preview read of this book. I really appreciate it. You have no idea. I feel honored to be able to have that experience. So you gave me in just that an amazing experience. I want to say thank you for that.
Thank you for accepting. It was an honor for me as well, to be honest.
I appreciate that. And so let's talk